This session felt so big that I had to do it before I do my usual qigong. It's still very, very early here in the Pacific Northwest, and I had a client yesterday. Someone I was talking to that said, "How do you do this?" Actually, she's she said, "How do you make it so that when you do a video or you write something up, that people can have a change from the chair they're sitting in? Like, how can they go from, being tight and then being loose just by watching a video?" And and it reminded me of a story, and it's actually the story of Yoda. So years ago, my name is Ralph Havens, autoimmuneanswers.com, and I used to have a physical therapy practice in San Diego. It was called Mission Hills Physical Therapy, and it was great. It was great. And I had been doing a lot of medical intuitive work. The late Sharon Giammatteo influenced me a lot. She showed me that some things that I never even imagined were possible. And she could see things. People would call her on the phone, and she had clinics all over the world. I think about 14 of them. And people like me, therapists would call her with a client and say, "Hey, I have so-and-so on the table. Here's what I'm seeing." And she would instantly know what was going on, what was the root causes of what was going on, and how to, in her words, fix it up. And she would say, "Okay, go ahead and fix it up." And so she had shown us all these different ways to assess the body and see where was the primary problem. Is it physical? Is there some sort of a problem with the heart, like it was with me when I first interacted with her work? Is it something in the bone? Is it something in the liver, in the GI tract? Is it something in the mental or emotional thing that happened early in life? Is it a spiritual you and God issue kind of thing? Is it a big rage issue somewhere stuck in the body? And then she had techniques to clear it. And one of her teachers, one of the people that she taught and then worked with her and then taught me, traveled all over the world teaching this and doing stuff, is a woman named Kim Burnham, PhD, Dr. Kim Burnham. And she got a PhD in integrative medicine, integrative manual therapy. And she solved an eye problem where she had a diagnosis that she should have been blind. She was supposed to be blind, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then she fixed it up with this method of Sharon Giammatteo's, and she started teaching it all over the world, and she was teaching me a lot of my classes. And I had hired her. I hired her for my clinic in San Diego. And so she would come every 3 months, and she would live with me and Jen for 2 weeks. And then she would go to my office, 7-minute walk away in Mission Hills, San Diego, and she would work on our clients. We would line them all up, and they would come in, and she'd work on them. And I had one client who she was in her 50s, and we'd already saved her from some really severe stuff using this method. She came from a doctor who, I love that guy. He used to say, "I don't know what Ralph does, but just go." And he had sent this lady who couldn't move her arms since she was about 8 or 9 or 10, somewhere in there. She couldn't move her arms. The most she could do was like a little bit of, not even that much, just a little bit of movement like that. But she couldn't move her arms, and she drove with her feet, and she was awesome. And whenever she came to the office, it was like a party. She brought her friends, and but she had a problem that her lungs were not doing well. And the doctors were saying, well, the next step is a tracheotomy. Like, we're going to have to put a tube in your throat, but then you won't be able to talk unless you could put your hand on it and touch it then you can talk. But she couldn't move her arms. So it would have been a disaster. And so her doctor said, "Go see Ralph." And so she came to see me, and we used this medical intuitive model and did hours of treatment. And within a couple of weeks, her lungs were starting to do really well. And then she no longer needed a tracheotomy. So there she was. But she had signed up to work with Kim Burnham for about 20 hours in 1 week. Kim was there for 2 weeks. And so there she was. And Kim was taking videos before and after. She loved to do pre-testing and post-testing. She had her PhD. She loved the science of it all. doing stuff to see, does this work or not? And so there she was, and she had this woman try to move her arm, and of course nothing would move. It was just like flat. She had gotten she couldn't move her arm because she had a polio vaccine early in life, and it had given her polio. You know, that's just a thing that happens. And it's a drag, right? So so there she was, and Kim kept taking video, and after that week, she was laying on her side and she could move her hand like that. And I was, you know, being with Kim during those 2 weeks, it would be, it was like from when we woke up till when we went to bed at night. It was total learning. She was always teaching. We were always talking. We were just brainstorming on cool stuff. It was amazing. And at one time at lunch, it was right before I took my first Matrix Energetics class. And it was, I'd read the book and I tried to do it and it wasn't working. It was like, I knew I wasn't doing it the way it was in the book. I wasn't seeing quantum leaps in miracles like it was in the book, Matrix Energetics. And so we were eating lunch one time and Kim had bought me this guy. She found him in the airport and she bought me Yoda. And he looks kind of cool, huh? I think he kind of looks like me from the back. But anyway, so I asked her, Kim, when am I going to get to do what you do? And she goes, Ralph, you already do. You just don't know it. And I was like, like I knew she was right. Something in me said, yeah, I know, you're right, but I don't. It's like, And so then a few days later, I took my first Matrix Energetics class, and everything changed. Everything changed for me because I saw how fast something can change. And so I had this medical intuitive model of lots of hours could work on people and have some big shifts. I mean, the story of Jen and her aunt is incredible. What happened in 20 hours of work with her. And but after taking Matrix Energetics, I saw how fast something could change. And we had a client who I'd been seeing using my medical intuitive work, that a little girl, almost teenager, and she had one eye that was blind. Actually, it was like she had a one of those fake eyes in there. She had a remnant of an eye somewhere in there, but she had an artificial eye, a prosthesis, and another eye, but she was going blind. And we would test her, and we had a big newsletter, and so she with the print that was this big, she couldn't read it. And so we would have her try to read it, and then we would work on her. And Kim was working on her some too. And so I took Matrix, and everything was different. And it was incredible. I mean, I would do sessions on this little girl, and all of a sudden she was just splayed out on the treatment table, like as if she couldn't move. You know, it's like she couldn't move, but she was just like, whoa. And but we kept testing how things went. And I remember, I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I had her lay it down on a table, and then I put a piece of paper between her, like here, and I said, because she was getting better and better. She had gotten to the point where she could read text messages. And so she was laying on the table and flat on her back, and I gave her a tennis ball, and I put a paper between her here, and I said, throw it to the other hand. And she threw it and she caught it. And then throw it to the other hand, and she threw it and she caught it. And she was playing catch with this ball like this. And it was just cool to see all these changes. And so as I was talking to that person yesterday, and she was asking, how do you do this with the video thing? And, you know, when I was with the medical intuitive training, it was like, okay, my teacher could see things at a distance. Like people could call her on the phone and she could see stuff, and then she would tell us, now fix it up. And we would do hours and hours of treatment. And then I saw Matrix Energetics, and I saw how things could change so fast. And so I started to see that, wow, we have this kind of power within us. You do right now. And it shows up in the quantum physics. I mean, the quantum physics supports that idea. There's an infinite amount of energy in every proton in your body. There's infinity as far as in energy. There's infinity in just a dot of the universe. and there's infinity in this dot and this dot. That's in the quantum physics. And so they even call it nasty infinity because it really messes up their math when they consider those kind of things that they're finding. And so how do you access that thing that's already there? It already lies within you. How do you do that? And so one of the things I noticed was there's something about being in the space of it. So when I read the book, it's like I couldn't do it because I was trying to do it with this, with my mind, with thinking about it, with trying to do something. But there's something else that happens. And so then being in the class with 400, 500 people for 5 days, I started to realize, oh, there it is. It's different than what I thought. In fact, it's the easiest thing I've ever done because there's nothing to do. And that can sound all cryptic, but when people work with me one-on-one, they start to get it. And then at some point, I can give them words so that they can start to use it. And it's kind of like my student that came to see me during a little after that time, and she was there part of the time when Kim was there. And months later, maybe even years later, and she had called me out of the blue from Mississippi. And she said, I want to come to your clinic to do my last internship as a physical therapist, 8 weeks. And we had students from the LA area before. And I said, sure, yeah, come on, we'll do the paperwork. Come on, you can be on this rotation 8 weeks here. And so she came and I said, I can't really teach you these things I'm doing, but if you take the class, then we can talk about it and you'll get it faster, bigger. And so for about 3 weeks, she was hanging around with me and we were having miracles with clients. And I remember one time I was working on my office manager's brother, and and it felt really big. So this matrix energetic space was very activated, very, very big, lots of changes with my office manager's brother. And I could tell, because I can see stuff, I can feel stuff, that my student was getting it. She didn't know with her mind that she was getting it, but she was getting it. That power lies within you. And then another time later that day or the next day, I forgot when it was, we were working with somebody and it was awesome because she was hanging around with me and she was my cohort. She was like my secret weapon. She was doing matrix energetics, or she was using it, and she just didn't know it yet. And so I told her, hey, you know how that was, what that felt like when we were working with my office manager, Susan, with her brother? And she goes, yeah. I said, do that now. And she did. And she started to get it. And then she ended up taking the class. She flew to Chicago, took a class for a few days, came back, and she's like, oh, you're not doing anything. It's this. And we just played for the next 5 weeks. And on the last day, she gave me, it's over there, she gave me a wand, a Harry Potter wand. And she told me, Ralph, you ruined me for physical therapy. And she was smiling. And she told me a story that I'll never forget. I'll never forget it. And she said, I think I know the reason I came to your clinic. And she said, before I came, my brother, who had just graduated from chiropractic college, he had a severe injury, severe accident. He burned his hand so severely, they were talking about amputating his fingers. And they had a miraculous recovery. They don't know how it happened, but he just got better and better and better. And his hands looked normal, like they were like good. And she says, I think what happened was I came to your clinic and got this matrix energetics, and I time traveled back and then worked on my brother. And so then I had to come in real time to come to your clinic. Now, this was a regular physical therapy student before she interacted with this. So what I've come to experience and know deep in my soul is that the power does lie within you. It's already there. You just don't know it yet. And you're not going to get it by this. because it's not where it is. It's different than that. And so if you're interested in that sort of thing, then there's ways to interact with it. And so these videos are all about that, because no matter what I'm talking about, you're soaking in it. You're soaking in it. You're soaking in it. And what you can do if you want is to notice what you notice. Now, that's what Richard Bartlett, the developer, the founder of Matrix Analytics, says. And if you think about it for a moment, to notice what you notice, that's profound. That's profound. You might have to sit with that one a little bit, to notice what you notice. And when you're with me for a while, whether you know, I see people one-on-one, and that's in the most fastest, biggest, most powerful way to see massive change in your life. And I say that absolutely because I know it. But what you can do is interact with me in any way that you can. These videos, the End Anxiety Forever program, the Enlighten Up program, wherever you feel called to, the Miracles, Magic, Healing, and More, which is happening this Sunday. I've set up so many ways for people to interact with this, because when somebody starts to see a miracle and then another miracle and then another miracle, you're no longer this person. You've come to a different path, and now you're here, and you can't unknow it. And so that's one of my things I think that I'm doing is, I'm like, why do I do all this stuff? I get up early, I do 2 hours of Qigong and Matrix Energetics. I don't know, but it's what I do. And if you're interested in more of this, there's many ways to interact with this. And at some point, if we do work together more on a one-on-one basis, I can give you words, kind of like I did with my student. Kim Burnham knew that she couldn't tell me something that one day at lunch that would get me to get it. I had read the book. I had a great time reading the book. I did everything they said in the book. I'm a great student. It wasn't about doing anything. Isn't that weird? So if this interests you, let me know. Comment below, email me, find my contact information. Get on some of the programs. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, let's do this. And I can show you what I found. And so I'm going to go ahead and do my Qigong now. I love Qigong. And I hope you're having a great Tuesday. It's the day before my wedding anniversary with Jen, our anniversary. So we've got a good week planned, and I hope all your dreams come true.